So,
All right, in that context, then I will move to approve the change in the comprehensive plan.
I'll second Jim's motion and a little discussion if we can, Bill.
okay.
You know, as Walter said, we've been seeing this thing from clear back in the early 2000s. And I don't know how many owners we've had in that time, and the time has come for it for something to move forward in there, and I think this is a pretty good, it's infill, and that's what we need to do in this town, is there's a lot of places out there like this that some of them still aren't in city limits, but we need to get them in and we need to fill in. We need to square up this town and you know, start getting a little more, a little, I don't know if we want to say reasonable or what, but just a little more logical in how we're making things happen and just start filling in these spots. So yeah, I'll second Jim's motion on the change.
Okay, everybody's got we got a motion by Jim and a second by Dan to approve the change in the comp plan amendment. Everybody on board? Walter, we'll start with you.
Aye.
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 All
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that moves on. Now we need to talk about the rezone. And
Back to you, Jim.
I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve the rezone of the property
As presented.
as presented. Yes.
Excuse me, Your Honor.
hang on a second.
You need a number for the resolution.
Oh, okay, give me the number. What is the number for the resolution? I have no idea. 2016 what? 20. Okay.
Number one.
Number one.
One of the year.
There we go. Okay.
Your Honor, and then after the resolution is addressed, then
There's an ordinance that needs to be read.
actually, there's a reason statement that will need to be prepared, so the council.
Well,
will
we're
need
going to
direct-
talk about that too, Bill, because the recent state and I think the thing to do is probably have staff fix that and present it back perhaps to admin next Monday with the relevant criterias or.
It would be staff's recommendation to direct staff to prepare the reason statement of relevant criteria. I would recommend that after each action, you direct staff to prepare the reason statement for that action.
Okay, so for this approval of the change in the comp plan amendment, is that a motion we need to make, or is that just a direction we need to make?
A motion.
Because you have a reason statement
Okay.
for each action, the
All right,
resolution, the
so,
ordinance, and the plat.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve have the staff prepare the relevant criteria and standards for Resolution 2016-01.
I'll second that.
Okay, we got a motion by Dan and a second by John for the relevant criteria for staff to write up and present at the ad meeting next Monday.
Your Honor,
Something else you
Or at some point in the future.
Or at some point in the future, I don't know.
I would generally recommend we bring this back, because it's a quasi-judicial application, we bring it back to the full council at your next meeting for the reason
Well,
statement.
wouldn't you do that for the admin and then bring it back to council, the next council meeting? What
They're
you've
they're
done?
different bodies. You're
Or
right.
is it, where
You're-
you do not need to do it?
No, you're right now, you're being the quasi-judicial body, and as a whole body.
It doesn't need to even come to
Okay,
committee.
very
just straight
good.
back to
Saying
council.
come back to council.
Very good. We'll start the roll with John.
Aye.
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 And aye.
Okay, now, we'll go to the rezone.
Okay, well, I'll restate that motion that we approve the rezone as presented.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion by Jim and a second by Dan to accept the rezone, and this has an ordinance with it. I'll start to roll with Walter.
Mr. Mayor, staff is stirring over there. Maybe they want to say something.
So, city clerk informs me that there was no motion to adopt this under suspension of the rules.
The rezone has to be under suspension of the rules, and
Requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and
I understand that.
That's your motion? Okay.
Correct.
We just need to make it clear.
Okay, we good? Everybody satisfied? We'll start with Walter.
Aye.
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 all right.
Aye.
Aye.
Now, same drill on this one, relevant criteria.
Well, he
and-
needs to read it now.
Well,
doesn't he?
yeah, but I read the ordinance prior to whatever this next procedure you
Yes,
guys will
read-
be happy with over there.
Yes, you'd read the ordinance, give it
Okay.
its number, read the ordinance, and then the next action would be the directing staff on the reason statement.
Okay, this is ordinance 2016-1. Ordinance number 2016-01, an ordinance of the City of Moscow, Idaho, a municipal corporation of the State of Idaho, providing for the zoning of approximately 3.1 acres, a property described in Section 1, Property 1 as neighborhood business, NB, and approximately 4.14 acres described in Section 1, Property Number 2 is medium-density residential R3, providing that the provisions of this ordinance be deemed severable, providing for this ordinance to be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and publication according to law. Are those accurate numbers?
That doesn't sound like it.
I mean, those are different numbers we've been talking about all night, so would somebody over there take a look at it?
I will. Yeah, the legal descriptions were provided by the applicant, but the difference is our rezone boundaries go to the middle of the street.
Yeah,
Okay, so that's why we got it.
yeah,
a
you have
little
two
bit of-
different land masses. you're
Okay.
dealing with.
Now, that being said, we need to talk about the relevant criteria and standards for this as well.
Your Honor, I make a motion that we have direct staff to prepare relevant criteria and standards for this reason statement and the relevant criteria for this 2016-01 ordinance.
I'll second.
Okay, we got motion by Dan, a second by John for the staff to prepare relevant criteria for this ordinance 2016 on the rezone to bring it back to the next council meeting. Right? Start with you, John.
Aye.
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 And aye.
Okay, now, we still have the preliminary plat to deal with.
Right.
So,
So the hang-up there seems to be less to do with the plat itself and more with how to deal with the parking issue. And there's been some stuff kicked around, Walter's idea on that one seemed to have the most flexibility for all concerned.
If I may,
go ahead, Walter.
question for staff. How do we tell the applicant that we will approve a plat for this configuration, but that we want to see a way to add additional parking to just a garage and a single space and a driveway for each of the owned units? Do we deny this and send them back to the drawing board to bring it back to us? Can we approve it with some broad language that directs them to do something? What would staff suggest? Since I think you understand where at least two of us are trying to go.
So the council can approve the plat with a condition that off-street parking is provided. It would be preferable if the council had a direction of how they would like to see that achieved. So we would recommend approval of it with the addition of on-street parking on the north side of 3rd Street in front of the neighborhood business lot, or that you would recommend approval of it with the requirement that they provide parking on the neighborhood business lot, a certain quantity that would be made available, recorded by easement, noted on the plat as being available for the neighborhood's use. Honestly, the on-street parking is the most logical and easiest to manage parking system, because as you get into individual parking lots, you have to, who's going to be around for the long-term maintenance, snow removal, patrol, policing it.
I mean, interrupt you, Bill, if I may. I get all that.
Right.
Staff traditionally doesn't like elected officials designing projects. That's why my suggestion was that the staff and the developer work out a way to get additional parking, which is what the council, I believe, wishes to see happen here. I'm trying not to tell him, back them up 20 feet and force cars in there, or work out a deal on the commercial, or put it in the curve on the north side by the commercial.
So my recommendation would be then for the council to table this matter, allow for the applicant to decide how they would wish to try to meet that obligation, and then the council could remove it from the table when a solution has been identified. If you're going to have a motion of approval, we do want precision in that motion, and we do want to make sure that there's a condition that's clear and that we can determine that it's been achieved. So until that occurs, I mean, if the council wishes to require on-street parking along the north side adjacent to the neighborhood business as a condition of the plat approval, that's fairly easy. If you want to provide the flexibility to the developer to find out how they wish to propose meeting that obligation, then I would suggest you table it and you allow the applicant time to decide how they'd wish to propose that, and then they can bring that back to the council under further
Okay,
consideration.
question for you, does that require another public hearing?
It does not. The hearing has been closed, and you've set up an expectation. It can be tabled. It can be brought back. The hearing could be reopened if you wish to do so, but I don't know that it would necessarily be required to for that individual, single consideration about
Well,
off-street
it's the
parking.
plat anyway. It's not the rezone stuff, it's not the legal stuff. Or is there an ordinance tied to the?
It is still a quasi-judicial approval by the council.
I mean, I would prefer that we allow some sort of flexibility, and that was going to be my suggestion, is that we make that motion, but I think the easier deal is to table it and allow them to bring something back to us, work with staff to have something for us, because, we can sit here and have 6 different ideas of what it ought to be, and that, we could be here for another 4 hours, but.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would make a motion that the item for platting this property be tabled until such time as the developer and staff are prepared to bring it back to us with a proposal for additional parking in this subdivision.
Second.
Okay, I had like 3 seconds.
I'll give it to
I think,
John.
Well, okay. We've got,
For staff, does that work?
is that?
Okay.
Okay, what we got is a motion by Walter and a second by John to table the preliminary plat until the developer gets with staff and to bring it back to us with a solution based on parking, is how I understood. Does that sound good to everybody? I'll start with you, John.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move that forward, and with that, thank you folks for enduring all those different things with us.